Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Bobby Sylvester, joined as always by Mike Tagliere. We're on Twitter at BobbyFantasyPro and at Mike Tagliere NFL. Tags, you've got to be feeling pretty pumped about Trubisky getting 6 touchdowns. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going good, dude. It's been a good week for me. I mean, like in terms of like, for those who didn't listen to the podcast yesterday, my dog's back home. Everything is good. Like I'm having a great start to my week. Last week was kind of like a blur. Everything went together, but I mean, Sunday couldn't get any better. I whooped Bobby's butt in our Fantasy Pros Invitational Dynasty League. I like doubled your score. It was embarrassing.
Well, I mean, I didn't have a bad week. You just scored like 3,000 points. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, my team like went off. I think it might have been the highest score that we've ever had in the Invitational Dynasty League. So it was a good week, man. It's good to be back on the show. I'm sorry I missed the DFS podcast on Thursday, but I know we're gonna have a good show today because I already know we're gonna have a few arguments.
We gave great advice, so I know you're usually the one doing it, but I think we helped people win money, so it's okay that you missed that one. We're gonna be covering injury news, the waiver wire, then droppable players, and maybe even some buy low, sell high guys for trades. Our guest today is Joe Pisapia, author of the #1 selling fantasy black book. Joe can be found on Twitter at JoePisapia17. Joe, thanks for taking the time to talk with us today.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here, especially when Mike's in a good mood with his Bears being fun to watch. I mean, defense in Chicago. I mean, what's going on? It feels like the 80s again.
So while Tags is having a good week, guys, I made 2 grave mistakes today. First, I mixed up the time zones and made myself a pizza like 15 minutes ago. So I'm, it's just sitting here right next to me. I don't have time to eat it until we're finished. Have you guys ever done that?
No, absolutely not.
Well, I'll tell you what, Bobby, dude, I shouldn't worry about it because you got 2 Italians here. I'm sure we can fill the time and you can eat an entire lunch by the time we just get one thought out.
Second, guys, this is the big one, okay? Apparently, I made everyone just hate me on Twitter this afternoon. I think football celebrations are stupid. Like these grown men choreograph dances during the week just in case they score or get a sack. That's lame. I think that's lame. And I honestly thought most people were with me on this, or at least indifferent, thinking, well, it's stupid, but who cares? Let them be excited. That's not the case, apparently. People are furious. Am I seriously alone on this one, Tags and Joe?
I mean, I'm not going to try and take the fun out of it. I think some of them, I mean, the thing is they've become quite generic, from what I've seen so far. Like, it's a lot of the same ones, the bowling ball and then the falling down, the Dragon Ball Z stuff, which I don't even know anything about Dragon Ball Z, but I mean, I'm okay with it. They're out there having fun. I don't like the celebrations like Isaiah Crowell did, against the Browns where he's wiping his butt with the football. That's not good.
Or like Golden Tate walking into the end zone backwards.
Golden Tate, that dude, I mentioned in the podcast last night.
He's going to get lit up by somebody. Joe, what do you think, man? Do you love these dances?
Well, I like the fun ones. I mean, like you're saying, the ones where I think the Eagles had a lot of good ones last year when they were playing the baseball game or taking the team photo or whatever that is. That's fun. You use the word grown men. I think that's
okay. Yeah, you got it.
I mean, these guys are 25, 26-year-old man children for the most part. So, I mean, for them, it's a release of all that stuff. But to me, it's all about the degree of difficulty and creativity. If you're going to have good creativity, I'm in. If you're going to be lazy about it, then I'm out.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about some injury news, guys. Tags, where do you want to start here, man?
I mean, do we really want to talk about Will Dissly? I don't.
No. I mean, Will Fuller, it looks like he's going to be out a while. We've got O.J. Howard is out 2 to 4 weeks. Obviously, we're going to talk about Cameron Brate a little bit later. There's really no big injuries that happened. I mean, there's no healthy tight ends left. But
Chris Carson is coming back. Supposedly, he's supposed to be back. He was a surprise inactive. We didn't know anything about that. That was one. But yeah, I mean, Will Fuller, I don't know if he's going to miss time. They're saying that it was a very mild thing that he could have come back to play it, which I don't know if I believe any of this crap anymore. If it's a hamstring like they're saying it is, a lot of that stuff takes more time than they anticipate. T.Y. Hilton is probably going to miss Thursday night's game against the Patriots. Those are that's the one that stands out to me, I think, the most, is that T.Y. Hilton, that could have been a great matchup for him against the Patriots, but I don't see him getting on the field. It seems like Jack Doyle's going to be out for that game. So it's just Thursday Night Football is probably going to be a Patriots crushing the Colts.
The biggest one for me is probably Leonard Fournette straining the hamstring again. Joe, what do we do with this guy?
It's a bad scene, man. I mean, it's just brutal. Right now, I think you can certainly have the argument that he has possibly been the most frustrating first-round pick. At least with Le'Veon Bell, he's out. You can make a choice of what you want to do with Le'Veon Bell. With Fournette, it's this constant tease of getting him in the lineup and him getting hurt again, and I feel like that's always worse. the definitive, I'm not going to play. All right, well, that sucks. Or, you're out for the year. That sucks, whatever. Maybe I could try to deal you. Somebody believes maybe that there's a trade potentially in the works. Maybe you get a little value off Lev Bell there. But the Fournette one is even more frustrating. And it's not surprising that Yeldon's been pretty good in his stead, because that offensive line is much better than it was a couple years ago when Yeldon got his first crack at it. So I think for me, it's not surprising that he's gone in there and done an admirable job. But the Fournette thing right now, I mean, it's just absolutely brutal. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know what you do with him, because, you really, even to sell low at this point, I don't even know what you can get, because I feel like the frustration level is just so wide.
Tags, would you trade Fournette straight up for Le'Veon Bell?
No, I wouldn't do that yet, because I still don't think Bell returns for a long time.
James Conner had 19 rushing yards last night.
Yeah, that's the thing. I feel like that was a little overblown in saying that anybody could just walk in and do Le'Veon Bell's job. But I think the breaking point for me would be would you rather have Leonard Fournette or Jordan Howard for the rest of the season?
Howard.
I agree. I think this week was more of the one-off with Tariq Cohen.
Yeah, I think Fournette's probably going to be out 2 weeks, and that's really the difference. I mean, if you play them both every single game, I would take Fournette, but I mean, and you have to expect he's going to get hurt again, because he always does.
Yeah, it's brutal, man. These soft tissue injuries, if they don't, that's the thing. If he wasn't completely 100%, he should not have been on the field last week. I don't know. It's hard to understand what he's telling coaches, because I'm sure he wants to be on the field too. But unfortunately, he missed 2 weeks with this one, so they may play it even safer and have him miss 3 weeks. That's why I've lowered him down to my number 13 running back for the rest of the season, and I don't even know if I'd want him there. I might lower him some more depending on what they say.
Fortunately for the Jags, it doesn't matter if they have Fournette, because Bortles is the GOAT.
Here we go again.
Yeah. I'll talk about this later, but I just want to throw this stat out there. In his last 10 games, Blake Bortles is the QB number 1. I don't know how it happened, but it's true.
Is that compared to other quarterbacks named Blake Bortles, or?
That's Blake Bortles facts.
No, it is all quarterbacks. It's a true story. I'm not pulling anyone's leg.
Well, it's like that stat that got thrown out this weekend, that since Bill Lazor took over, no one's thrown more touchdowns than Tom Brady and Andy Dalton during that period, or something to that effect. I mean, it's just crazy. Some of these quarterbacks and this is, I guess, to the point, right, where you say this is why in single quarterback leagues you don't necessarily want to pay up for that quarterback, because Andy Dalton, you had Matt Ryan a couple years ago, you got Andy Dalton this year, you got Blake Bortles, who's outside that one game putting up fantasy numbers. So it's just an unnecessary reach. And meanwhile, look how much running back depth, look how much wide receiver depth you need because of all these injuries.
Yep, I certainly wish in the leagues where I took Aaron Rodgers, I would have just taken Stephon Diggs instead, or Adam Thielen. All right, guys, let's move on over to the waiver wire, and we're going to go position by position this time. So we're going to start at wide receiver, and it's not as exciting this week as past weeks. There's more guys that you can pick up and that will be useful, but there's not a single one that is Calvin Ridley, Mike Williams. You can use them every game for the rest of the season. My number 1 wide receiver is Keke Coutee. He's owned in just 1% of leagues. Joe, is that who you have as well?
Well, right now, it really depends on the extent of the Fuller injury. I know after the game, Bill O'Brien was optimistic. He basically said that, he could have played, but, we didn't want him to run certain routes and all that stuff. And I understand that, because you just got him back. And if you felt like you could win the game without him, and Keke Coutee was playing well enough and certainly looked good enough that you didn't need to push Will Fuller back into that game. So if he misses a week, that's fine. But I think this might be more of a short-term one, unfortunately, because Will Fuller's been so good. I think the key is to get him.
15 targets, though. I mean, that's a pretty big deal.
I mean, for me, if I'm looking for my number 1 personally, I think Tyrod Taylor is the guy for me, because I think that as Corey Davis starts to emerge and Mariota gets healthy and that offense starts to figure itself out, it always takes time for transition. Everybody was high on the LaFleur change, but at the same time, you realize it takes time for all these pieces to gel, and then Mariota's injury slowed that up. So Tyrod Taylor for me is the guy that I think can be a nice little, PPR guy. You saw the targets he got this week too. I think that's where I go, because I think it's more sustainable, if that makes sense.
9 targets, 7 receptions. We know that he's talented. Tegs, do you agree that these two are number 1 and 2? And which order do you have them in?
I actually have Ryan Grant higher, because these are players that I view right now as kind of spot starts, where you're looking to play them in certain matchups. I don't think any of them are every week starts right now. I don't think Taylor will get to that point, because I still believe that Tennessee, their ideal situation is to play good defense and run the ball better than they have.
And throw the ball to Corey Davis 33% of the time.
He has a 42% air yard share. It's something ridiculous. It's third highest in the NFL.
Well, that's also part of my thought process, because I also feel like that's not a sustainable number. Mike, do you agree with that?
I would agree with you. They have been saying that Corey Davis is the safety valve of this offense, and I think that Delaney Walker getting hurt, it's kind of the train came off the rails, and it's they had to go in a direction they didn't really want to. I don't think it's sustainable either. I think a lot of these receivers that are up there in that crazy high share are going to come down a little bit.
Yeah. So maybe he comes down to 26%.
My issue with Taiwan is that they're not playing him in the slot. This is a game that I actually was going through right before we started the podcast. And Taiwan, he actually played the least amount of snaps in the slot. They had Corey Davis there 30% of the time. They had Tajay Sharp 40%. And I think Taiwan was just 18% of his snaps out of the slot. He's not a very big guy, so he's going to require to get like separation from Mariota. And he's done well. I want to say he's caught 14 of his last 17 targets, 14 of the last 18, something like that. He's done well. And I do like Taiwan Taylor, but I felt like he should be utilized more out of the slot than Tajay Sharp, but it's not what they're doing just yet. So I'm still like I do believe he's worth a pickup in deeper leagues, but this week I have Ryan Grant ahead of both of these guys. I like Keke Coutee too, but I'm gonna kind of circle back to that. But Ryan Grant playing the Patriots this week in a game that they're going to New England. That defense has struggled. Stephon Gilmore, I think he's allowed 3 touchdowns in coverage already this year. So Ryan Grant is kind of like that floor play where if someone has a bye week issue, because again we have bye weeks coming up here, I think Ryan Grant is like a guy that's safe, for 6 to 8 targets in a game. He's not going to give you tremendous upside, but he at least presents a solid floor for your team. Whereas Keke Coutee, I love the kid. Like, I hated the landing spot for him in Houston. I really did, because when you have DeAndre Hopkins there and you have Will Fuller there, it's like, how many targets can he really get? And you saw it this week. I mean, what did he have, 15 targets in this game?
He did. That's weird because that's not the type of player he is. He's more like a Tyreek Hill light who can break a big play. I thought he would get 4 or 5 targets in a game and maybe break one of them for a touchdown.
Yeah, and QT, man, the dude's a baller. Like, I liked him, and that was my comp for him. He was like a Tyreek Hill light in my scouting profile comp that I did this offseason. I loved QT. I still do, and the fact that Bruce Ellington's out, the fact that this was QT's like first game action where it was like, get in the game, let's see what you can do, kid. And we've seen it with Deshaun Watson with Will Fuller, so who's to say that Keke Coutee won't be like a go-to guy for him as well? DeAndre Hopkins is seeing a lot of top-tier cornerbacks, and that's not going to end. So Coutee is going to have major mismatches, and they don't have a tight end they're utilizing. So Coutee, you could argue to take him.
They don't have a running game either.
Yeah. You could, yeah. Lamar Miller got hurt at the end of that game. Apparently, I don't know, man. Deontay Foreman coming back. I don't think that changes much.
I think they just took Miller out. He had 12 yards on 12 carries or something.
Oh, he had 10 yards on 10 carries the week before, so he hasn't been good at all. But I mean, I wouldn't argue with someone if they said they wanted to take QT over Ryan Grant. Because like it's a potential upside pick, but I think Grant is just a safer.
See, now I don't think so. I don't think he is super safe because what is he, the number 4 option in that offense? They've got T.Y. Hilton.
But he's out.
They're passing to Eric Ebron a ton. They're passing to Nyheim Hines a ton. Andrew Luck also spreads the ball around to Chester Rogers, had 9 targets. Zach Pascal had 7, I believe.
Out of nowhere.
I just don't know if Grant is safe. I love Grant as much as anybody, and you know that, Tags, but I don't know if I can trust him week to week, or even this week against the Pats.
Yeah, no, it's fair. And like that's the thing is like I just think it's a floor play. I don't think his ceiling is crazy high. But one player we didn't name, and I'd love to hear you guys talk about. What's your take on Mohamed Sanu? I feel like I want whatever part of this Falcons offense I can get. And the reason I say that is because the defense is so terrible. Like they're going to be involved in shootouts nonstop. And then you have Mohamed Sanu, kind of like the forgotten man in Atlanta. Like he's capable of producing big numbers, and they're going to Pittsburgh this week. That game, I haven't seen the over-under on it quite yet, but I imagine it's going to be close to 60 points.
Oh, man.
Mohamed Sanu he's been a relatively high-floor PPR player the last couple of years in Atlanta, and this team is passing more than ever. I mean, what do you guys think of Sanu?
Joe, what do you think? Is he just a streamer or somebody that you go with long-term and you can plug and play in the flex?
I'll tell you what, guys, as productive as Ridley's been, and I'm a big Ridley guy, I've been, doing videos about him the last 2 weeks in DFS, and I'll talk with him on the DFS show I do, and, saying, well, roll with him again, because I think he's still this 6 for 60 and a touchdown kind of guy, and he's going to make the most of those opportunities when he's on the field because he causes matchup problems. But Sanu, to me, is one of these guys that's always, high floor, low ceiling. You know what I mean? Like, as far as what your expectations are. And Julio's continue to have massive yardage numbers and massive target numbers. Just can't get in the end zone. But Sanu, I'm perfectly fine with, especially for the reason you point out. That Atlanta Falcons defense is absolutely dreadful. I mean, pretty much every week you're just saying, okay, who's Atlanta playing? Who's Tampa playing? Oh, good. That's where I'm going to go this week. And you could just line up and stack the whole way through. And it's phenomenal that they just can't stop anything. It's unbelievable from a fantasy standpoint. You love it, when guys are throwing 6 touchdowns against Tampa and, guys are lighting up Atlanta at home on a weekly basis. It's incredible to watch. But for me, I think Sanu's perfectly fine. I don't know how excited I get about him because I don't know that big game potential is there. But I think he's definitely a cog in that offense, especially since they're still waiting for Freeman to get healthy and figure out what their identity is, at this point.
I agree. I would never feel bad about playing Sanu in the flex. With that said, I mean, I'm not going to go out and spend fab on him. If I get him, I get him. If not, well, I get the other guy who's just like him, and there's like 5 of them in the waivers. I mean, we've talked about our top players. I got QT. Joe, you got Taywan Taylor. Tags, you got Ryan Grant. Would you guys spend more than 5 fab on any of these guys?
No.
No, I think that's a magic number depending on your needs and bye weeks. If you're one of these teams that has, multiple receivers out on a bye week, in one of these upcoming sections, then I can understand maybe going a little higher on one of them who you think is going to be more consistent or, see, that's why I say Taylor, because for me, I feel like that Corey Davis number is unsustainable. It's going to change a little bit. It's going to spread things out a little bit. And I thought this past Sunday was the beginning of that. But no, I don't think any of these guys are game changing enough to want to go too much past that mark.
Yeah, and that Tennessee pass attack is going to get a lot better now that Blaine Gabbert's not going to be in there and Marcus Mariota looks healthy finally. Guys, the one player we haven't talked about that I've actually got as my number 2 wide receiver just ahead of Taywan Taylor is Dede Westbrook. And I'm surprised that if I would have said this at the beginning of the preseason, I would have been like, I can't really see a path to this happening. He's got 28 targets leading the team, 21 receptions leading the team, 268 yards and a score. I think this is the number 1 receiver in Jacksonville. Tags, do you disagree?
I said that I wanted to tie. I wanted to get any part of the Falcons offense that I could. I don't want any part of the Jaguars offense.
Even though they were just second in the AFC in scoring last year.
I understand that.
Even though they're going up against Kansas City in week 5.
Yeah, another good matchup.
So this is the real question. I've thought about this because I'm like, okay, this is a streamable game, but do the Jaguars hold back Patrick Mahomes? They hold him down. Because if they hold him down, how are the Jaguars going to win this game? Do they just air it out the entire time? I think you could do whatever you want to the Kansas City defense. So I think they run the ball if their defense keeps them in check. It could be like a game where I understand the appeal to it. I really, really do. But how much do we really want to put faith into Blake Bortles? Because you think about it, Keelan Cole was this guy a couple weeks ago where it's like, oh, everybody's like, oh, do we undervalue Keelan Cole? And is he an every week wide receiver 3? All of a sudden, he's not producing. Blake Bortles is just so up and down. It's like, if you're looking for someone to toss in your lineup and you just want straight up upside, yeah, I like Dede Westbrook. I feel like Taylor Gabriel is on the same path. I feel like they're similar players. Trubisky's been an inconsistent quarterback as well. So I feel like those two, I have them right next to each other actually in my rankings, Dede Westbrook and Taylor Gabriel. Westbrook obviously has a game this week. Gabriel doesn't, so I would take Westbrook over Gabriel. But it's just both situations are a little less than ideal, but they're both getting a lot more targets than people think. Like Taylor Gabriel, before he had 17 targets the last 2 weeks coming into this game. They only netted 64 yards, but he was bound to break a big play somewhere. It was going to happen, and they just took advantage of it against the Bucs. Do I think it's an every week thing? I don't, but I do think that these guys are like DFS plays that you could toss in a tournament lineup, and every now and then they're going to go off. I don't think Dede Westbrook is the number 1 receiver for the Jags.
Joe, what do you think about Dede Westbrook and Dante Moncrief, who's getting some work there as well?
Well, normally I would be very much in line with what Mike was saying, but because of the Fournette injury, because I think what they're going to have to do and continue to evolve offensively, I actually think Dede can be a little bit more consistent than maybe Mike does. And I see that going forward because, how high are so many fantasy people last year and so many scouts on Dede Westbrook, right? Everyone was on the Dede Westbrook watch. And I think the reason why he's still floating out there is I think a lot of people got burned last year of, picking him up off waiver wires or drafting him and then him not being the guy that they were hoping he was going to become. And I think it's sometimes hard to shake that moniker a little bit. And I think that now he's starting to do that. And for me, as long as Fournette continues to be questionable like this every week, and Yeldon, I don't think you're going to turn around and, hand him the ball 25 times a game. I don't think that's happening either. I think these guys are going to be very productive. And Moncrief is going to be that steady guy. I think, again, another one of these decent floor guys potentially, but the ceiling just not huge. But Dede is that guy that I think does have the ceiling. And I'd rather, if I'm going to take a shot on one of these kind of receivers, I'd rather take a shot on the guy that can be a tournament-style guy, even in a regular weekly season-long head-to-head fantasy league, because that's a guy that can win me that week. And that's a shot worth taking in my flex.
Joe, what do you think about Taylor Gabriel?
Well, for me, I love the target volume, and trying to make more of it would be nice, and he did this Sunday. Because he has that explosiveness, I think it's worth gambling. I'll tell you what what I would like to do is, as you mentioned, Mike, before, because they're on the bye this week, what I would like to do is actually make him my second choice on a lot of these waiver wire things, because, if people are going to spend $5 on some of these guys, if you don't get them, spend one on Gabriel. Yeah, maybe you take a hit this week, but you got him cheaper for the following weeks ahead. And how different are they? Probably not very different. So I think he should be that second guy. If you don't get player A, then Gabriel is the B on all of those different waiver claims.
All right, guys, I want to tell you guys about a sponsor of today's show, Bombfell. If you guys have never heard of Bombfell, it's a clothing service where if you guys have ever met me in person, you would know I'm like an Adidas jumpsuit type of guy. Like, I'm always in some sort of t-shirt. I have Adidas pants on, maybe a jacket, whatever, right? This is what I always wear. And so when I heard Bombfell was one of our sponsors, I went through with them and I tried them out, because like basically what they do is they give you a stylist and they talk about, what do you like to wear? What are some of the things you want to do? Do you want to go outside your comfort zone? So they assigned me with Jasmine. She was my VIP consultant, and she picked out an outfit for me. She made sure that I was okay with it before she sent it out, but it was more like I just wanted to be surprised. And my wife looked at me when I got dressed in these clothes and she was just like, "You look like a new dude." And that's kind of how you feel. And like, if you're looking for that, the clothes are delivered right to your door. It's top notch. Like, legitimately, the stuff is high quality that they pick out. And you obviously set your price ranges and everything you do with that. So just to give you guys some specifics on how the process works, once you sign up and set up your order, you'll be assigned a stylist who will email you their selections based on what you're looking for in your order. Once you get that email, you're given 48 hours to make any changes or just cancel outright. Bombfell gives you complete control. Once you receive your clothes, you will have 7 days to let them know what you want to keep, and then you just send the rest back. Now, the more clothes you keep in your shipment, the more you can save. If you keep at least 4 items, you get 20% off. Want to keep 3? Well, you'll get 15% off. Just want 2 items? That's fine. You'll still get 10% off. Bombfell is very flexible too. You can get your clothes just when you want. You can pause or cancel at any time. We've negotiated an exclusive offer with Bombfell, so listeners like you can get $25 off your first order. To redeem that order, visit bombfell.com/fantasypros. BOMB, bombfell.com/fantasypros.
All right, guys, let's talk some running backs here. And at the top of my list is Nyheim Hines. I'm not especially excited about him, but 22 receptions in 4 games. You're not going to find that anywhere else. How much do you actually spend on him, Joe? Is he your top guy too?
No, man, I'm telling you, I'm not holding my breath for Marlon Mack. I can tell you that right now. I'm not doing it. I feel like it's a trap. So that's why I will be more aggressive on Hines, because also I don't look at the Colts defense as this defense is going to put them in a spot where they can really push Marlon Mack all that much. I think they are going to be behind. I think they are going to continuously have to be in these kind of shootout games. So I like Hines from that perspective. And I think that he's starting, you can tell when players are starting to get comfortable with each other. And I think that's what we're seeing a lot of right now. By the time we turn the page into October, what you're seeing is a lot of those things that made sense on paper and then maybe they didn't come to fruition in September. They're starting to take shape, and relationships between quarterbacks and different players are starting to take shape. And I think Luck is starting to get comfortable with him. And that's huge, because it was a little slow on the uptake for everybody this offseason and preseason. So I like Hines.
Hines is an awesome pickup, and he was someone that I actually recommend picking up before last week. And I told Bobby I played him in a cash game lineup. He's like, "You're nuts," and I just liked his price. It was so cheap. And the thing is like we continue to see his role evolve, and we've seen him pick up the offense more and more. Like, we're seeing him more involved. He played 40-some snaps while Jordan Wilkins played 17 snaps back in week 3. We could have seen this coming, and knowing that Andrew Luck is missing both of his starting offensive tackles, knowing that the offensive line is kind of crumbling in front of him, knowing that he's limited in his passing options, Jack Doyle dealing with his hip issue, and now you have T.Y. Hilton dealing with the hamstring issue. Eric Ebron hasn't been efficient with his targets. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do here? They go to Nyheim Hines. Hines is essentially playing that Darren Sproles role in the Doug Peterson offense, and that's like the most valuable role, and especially in a PPR format. With Andrew Luck, checking down much more than he typically does, missing his safety blankets and T.Y. Hilton and Jack Doyle, I think Nyheim Hines on Thursday night is going to live up to, he might even be an RB2 this week in PPR formats. So he's someone that I don't think he's going to be an every week start. I think he's going to be somewhat matchup dependent. But as Joe said, here's Andrew Luck's pass attempts through the first 4 weeks. 53 attempts, 31 attempts. That was a game that they won. Not going to happen very often. 40 attempts, 62 attempts.
Oh, man.
Yeah, we're through 4 games and he's thrown 186 pass attempts. Like, what is going on here? That's on pace for over 720 pass attempts. They have to go somewhere. We know that the options are limited for Andrew Luck. We know that the defense is playing okay, I think better than people thought. But I like Hines an awful lot. There is a running back that I would debate taking over him, but I wanted to give my take on Hines before getting into this argument because I know it's going to lead to one.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you. I just wouldn't spend more than $5 on him. I would start him every week in PPR. In Standard, I think you play him, 40, 50% of the time. I'd rather have Marlon Mack, who I think is going to be the starter when he's healthy. I don't know when that's going to be. I think Rashad Penny might get this job eventually. I would rather have that upside than just another PPR type of, pass catching back. Ronald Jones, same thing. He was active. I think he's going to take over this job eventually. There's a couple guys like that. Nick Chubb, I would rather own him than Nyheim Hines. I mean, Joe, do you agree with me? Would you rather have someone who could be a starting running back? Or are you cool with just running Hines out there every week?
I'm just skeptical. Basically, Mike, proved out in the numbers what I'm saying in terms of the amount of attempts and the style game that the Colts are going to be forced into playing. And, yards are yards at the end of the day. So if, Marlon Mack is going to top out at 40 yards, but Nyheim Hines, because he's catching the football, might top out around 65 all-purpose yards, but he has more touchdown upside. I mean, all of a sudden that becomes the guy, regardless of format, I think you do want because of the style in which you're going to have to play. I do think that if you're a Hyde owner, it's important to have Chubb on your team, and I'm not somebody who usually likes to do that. I'm not somebody who's like rushing around saying, oh, I need this guy to back up this guy. I don't usually put that on my roster. I think even we talked about this last time I was on the show, but I think that in this unique case, because Chubb does have such kind of upside and because Hyde does have such a history of injury, as the year progresses and Cleveland continues to improve and move towards youth, you could see Chubb start to chip away a little bit, and Hyde's been very solid, but we all know at a certain point, Carlos Hyde has a history of not being able to finish seasons, so to me, that's something to keep in mind there. And Ronald Jones is a guy that I wasn't personally dropping at all. I have a lot of Ronald Jones shares. I'm just waiting it out, just like I was waiting for Fitzpatrick to stop being a thing and realizing that September, just, like the Patriots lose games in September, all these things, and by the time everyone gets to November, it's like, oh yeah, remember that? And that's how I feel about Ronald Jones too. Penny, though, that concerns me. I think what you saw this week where, all of a sudden Mike Davis was the guy and Penny had very little opportunity, that one concerns me more, or they should say the most out of this group.
Ronald Jones, it's so funny. I love that you're saying that, Joe, because I have actually held on to Ronald Jones almost unwillingly held on to him.
Oh yeah, we're stubborn. That's a bad thing,
And the thing is, and Brad Evans it's a 14 team deep league where it's we only have 5 bench spots, so they're very precious. And I held on to him because it's 14 team leagues with the running backs. It's this guy could turn into something, so I need to hold on to him. I almost cut him this past week, but I didn't. I'm glad I didn't. And Ronald Jones is actually my number 1 waiver wire ad this week over Nyheim Hines. I have him at number 1 because if you watch the preseason of the Bucs, I love the people that talk about Ronald Jones like they know he sucks at football when they didn't watch the games. Because if you didn't, if you actually watched the games that he played in the preseason, there was nothing that could be done. Ronald Jones had no room to operate. And if you watch the Bears game this week, Peyton Barber had no chance. This is not even on Peyton Barber. Peyton Barber is like a Frank Gore style runner. He doesn't work behind that offensive line. He's never going to break a big play. He's just I'm going to continually chip away and get 2 yards, 3 yards per carry. Ronald Jones is more of a home run guy. Yes, he's going to lose some yardage on some of the carries, but he's also going to break longer runs than Peyton Barber ever could. And knowing that...
So like Isaiah Crowell.
Don't get him started.
Don't get me started on Isaiah Crowell. I love people in my mentions after Isaiah Crowell has 2 touchdowns, and then the next week he has 4 yards.
I know, right?
But Ronald Jones, he came into the game in the second half with Jameis Winston, and he had a bad drop on a 3rd down play. And that's the thing is we've heard bad things about Jones in the passing game. And I think that they're going to continue to use Jacquizz Rodgers a little bit in that role. But Ronald Jones is someone they've invested a high 2nd round pick in. We saw the short leash for Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think we saw the same leash for Peyton Barber. They were just waiting to kind of put this offense forward with Jameis Winston, with Ronald Jones. They just have too much invested not to find out what they have here. But the issue still remains is that offensive line is getting no push up front, and they're terrible. But hopefully Jameis Winston provides enough, arm talent and enough threat through the air that defenses start backing off a little bit. The Bucs have to start running the ball a little bit more. Even if it's not accounting to more yardage, they have to run the ball because you can't rely on throwing the ball 40 plus times a game every week and expect to win. especially with the defense they have.
If Fitzpatrick did this behind this offensive line, I mean, is he actually really good? Could you see the 49ers just bluffing and saying, okay, Beathard really is just bad. I'm going to trade for Fitzpatrick?
That wouldn't be a terrible move for them. But, I mean, here's the thing. I think San Francisco finally has a system. And I think that's the thing, no matter, talent or not talent, having a system makes things a little easier. And this was one of those games, too, that we highlighted on the Line Star app pre-snap show where, I was talking at length with Rathburn about this game's going to be a lot closer than people realize. They're going to keep this game close because San Diego's had a hard time covering people, and San Diego's giving up big plays. And sure enough, there's Kittle running down the field there for 85 yards. There, stocky Kittle, he's not the guy you necessarily think of breaking away on an 85-yard touchdown. That's more Mr. Goodwin territory. But still, look, to me, I look at the situation and I say that, when we go back to Ronald Jones and guys like that they need the running game to start to take pressure off whoever's playing quarterback over there, because that offensive line needs a little bit of push. They need a little bit of aggressiveness or something to happen there, because what's going on right now is, Fitzpatrick might indeed have something left in the tank, but we've all seen with Fitzpatrick, every time you give him the reins, things go south very quickly. When he's able to step in short periods of time, he's able to be decent. And that's always been the case. That life cycle meme that goes around with Ryan Fitzpatrick, have you seen that? Where he gets a job and he sucks and then he gets released and he goes it back up and he comes back and he's really good and he gets a job and he gets a contract and it just goes around in a circle and around in a circle. But, look, I think that Beathard will be fine. San Francisco's still not a good football team, even before Garoppolo got hurt. So,
all right, guys, any other running backs you want to talk about? Duke Johnson, I mean, he's available in over 50% of leagues. Would you even pick him up, Tags? He was more involved this week.
I probably would. I mean, Mayfield at least checked down to him a little bit more and got him involved there, but it's so ugly, man. I am so mad about this whole Duke Johnson situation because
I thought he was a lock to be a top 30 guy again.
We played into the fact that they gave him a contract extension. It's like, he's the only one on the team that's like a high quality pass catcher, and he could handle a few carries on first and second down, and they haven't even really given him any run with the ball. Like it's purely Carlos Hyde and Nick Chubb on first and second down, and Duke Johnson's basically being used in a pass catching down back role like a Theo Riddick, and that's obviously not ideal. So yeah, it sucks, man. I don't want to drop him, but at the same time, I if you need help and you need someone to go in your lineup right now, I guess Nyheim Hines is the better ad.
I agree. I already dropped him, which is just crazy. I never would have thought I would have dropped Duke Johnson unless he was injured. But they're just not using him, and maybe he does get used more, but probably not enough with Carlos Hyde there and Nick Chubb emerging. We'll see what happens. Guys, let's move on over to quarterback. I already mentioned Blake Bortles, and it's kind of laughable, but really, they're playing the Chiefs this week. So I've got Bortles in my top 10. I already put together my Week 5 rankings. Joe, is this crazy? I mean, I actually had somebody ask me, I've got Pat Mahomes going against Jacksonville. Should I start him or Blake Bortles against Kansas City? And I didn't know what to say.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think you still got to roll Mahomes out there and hope for the best because of how good he's been. But I will say this, after Monday night's game, I think we'll have a little bit clearer idea because Denver's pass rush is for real. So let's see with Von Miller running all over him and those other guys, how he reacts to that. And that might give you a better idea going into that game this following week here with Jacksonville. But Bortles, I agree with you. I think he's absolutely a QB1 right on that fringe this week because of all those issues, because of Fournette, because of how bad Kansas City has been. So to me, I know it seems like it's a hot take when you say it, but I just don't think it is.
Yeah. Tags, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, Bortles, he's not a bad pickup. I mean, it goes back to the whole thing that the bet that you and I had, where it's like, did I expect Trubisky or Bortles to score more fantasy points from like what was it, week 3 on? They both had really good weeks. That's the thing. I would prefer Trubisky in the long run because I just think that the ceiling is higher with him.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not owning Trubisky this week and then not playing him. Like I'm playing Bortles. I'm playing Bortles this week and then I'm dropping him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. If you're a streaming quarterback, yeah, Bortles is definitely up at the top of your list. I mean, Jameis Winston, I'd probably put at number 1 because I think Jameis, even though he's not going to play this week, I feel like he could be a QB1 for the remainder of the season. Like, it's like one of those situations where Matt Ryan, where like the defense is so terrible that you can't help but throw the ball a ton. So Jameis has the weapons there to throw to. I feel like, he was a guy that we all believed in as a potential top 10 quarterback before he was suspended. So nothing has really changed there.
I've got him QB7 rest of the season, so I'm with you. I mean, I don't own 2 quarterbacks, but if I can get Jameis Winston right now for free, yeah, I'm going to own 2 quarterbacks, and he'll be my quarterback the rest of the season. You can play him Atlanta, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Carolina, almost every single game the rest of the season. Then you get to the fantasy playoffs, you've got New Orleans and Dallas in there.
Nice.
Yeah, Winston was my third quarterback, and I play in a lot of super flex or 2 QB kind of style leagues. So for me, he was my cheap third guy because I knew no matter what, he would get that job back at some point. I was not buying the Ryan Fitzpatrick stuff. I didn't panic after week 1. After week 2, it was harder not to panic. I can tell you that. I was starting to get a little antsy. I was like, no, just relax. He'll show who he is. The beard will fall off eventually, and you'll see the real Ryan Fitzpatrick. And then you did. And Winston, because of that defense, will be throwing the ball a ton. He was outstanding in December last year. Mike Evans is still there, and it's funny because now with the O.J. Howard injury, it's like, Brate falls right back into line again, and it's like the old gang getting back together. And for me, Winston's definitely the best long-term of Bortles, Trubisky, and him. I think that's the way you go long-term, and short-term just for this week since, you have no choice because Bortles is the only guy playing this week between the three of them.
So would you rather pick up Jameis Winston and then, pass up on Bortles and maybe just have to stream Marcus Mariota? Or would you pick up Bortles and hope you can get Winston too?
I guess it depends on who my other quarterback is, but I think that I would prefer probably just do the Mariota thing for a week and have Winston long term if I wasn't happy with my quarterback. If I've got, if I've got a really strong quarterback situation, then I'm not too worried about it. But Winston, I think long term definitely has the best upside of this group.
Yeah, just think about it this way. Think about it like Matt Ryan. Like if you had a chance to grab Matt Ryan right now and understand and pretend that he's on a bye week, or you could have Blake Bortles for 1 week, which would you choose? And I'll figure out a streamer while Matt Ryan's on a bye.
This is a conversation for the Garoppolo owner, I feel like. Where you're still trying to figure it out. I think if you were a Jimmy G owner and you really believed and you didn't draft the second quarterback, and then last week you were kind of like fumbling around, and now all of a sudden you have these options, I think that this is where Winston really comes into play for you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Any other quarterbacks you guys want to talk about? Like if you can't stream Blake Bortles, there's really not many options. It's all just kind of a crapshoot between, QB 14 and QB 20. They're all about the same.
Yeah, I'll figure that as the week goes on. As the week goes on, we'll find deep streamers to figure out. But as of right now, Bortles is the number one streamer.
I'm not spending any fab or a waiver priority on anyone not named Blake Bortles.
Are you guys doing that with anybody? Like Joe, you obviously said that you like QT, you like Ronald Jones. Would you, if you had the number one waiver priority, would you use it on any of these guys?
I'm trying to think of it. I mean, so much of that really depends on roster need at this point in the season. But for me, you can never have enough running backs. So I would probably, as crazy as it seems, it would probably be Jones or Hines for me, depending on what the format was. And I just feel like, I do long-term believe that Jones can emerge as that guy. And if Winston comes in there and he starts to move the football well again, and all of a sudden the offensive line starts playing a little bit better, maybe, just maybe, Ronald Jones can become a thing. And look, if you don't respect the running game, there's no reason to worry about the running game. So put a guy in there that you might have to respect, and Barber's just not that guy. He just doesn't have that quality about him as a runner. So it was only a matter of time, and hopefully he'll get this opportunity. But I also have to think about it from an organizational standpoint. They had a big pick on this kid. They want to believe in this kid. You better figure out what he is. You better figure out what Winston is, because they got a lot of decisions to make next year.
I wouldn't spend the number one or even any top 6 waiver wire priority on anyone this week. Unless one of these guys is sitting out there that's really highly owned, but for whatever reason he slipped through the cracks and you're like, yeah, I'd pick him up, but I'm not wasting a waiver wire priority this week.
No, that's fair. I mean, it's fair. I mean, I wouldn't use the number one waiver priority, I don't think. But I understand the idea, though. Like I said, in some leagues, if you're in a 14-team league like me, and you had Duke Johnson as one of your starting running backs, you're kind of screwed. You kind of need to take a chance on someone like Jones, so I would understand it.
All right, guys, tight ends, and a lot of people need tight ends right now. Everyone's saying Tyler Kroft. I think it's Cameron Brate, and not even close. In fact, I've got him as my number 2 overall pickup this week behind Keke Coutee. Joe, who do you have as your top tight end?
I'm with you with Brate, especially with Winston starting to come back. Unfortunately, it's not going to help you right now. So if McDonald's out there, that's one. And, when everyone's talking about Kroft, let's not forget the other tight end over there, too, in Cincinnati. So it's not like, Azuma is also around. And, I feel like the workload might be split between the two of them. And it's a shame, too. The Eifert injury is an absolute shame because he was playing well again in that game. And, this is a guy who tried so hard to keep getting back on the field, and you see him get hurt like that. Just brutal. But, man, I'll tell you, tight end is absolutely just horrendous. And at least we know with Brate, long term, even if, Howard does come back in a couple weeks, hopefully, and how healthy he is. But at least the rapport is there between him and Winston. It's not going to help you in the short term, but in the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks, as opposed to this next single week. But I'll tell you what, anybody who plays in these 2 tight end leagues, and I'm in one of them this year, it's dreadful. It's like, what are we trying to prove? Just how bad it is. I mean, it's like 2 catcher leagues. At a certain point, can we all just get together and realize it doesn't make it harder? It just exacerbates what's already crappy about the position. That's all it does. It's just a terrible idea. I don't understand it at all.
I agree. We need to get rid of tight ends altogether. Just make it another wide receiver / tight end position.
Well, I don't know if I want to eliminate the tight end position, but I don't want to play mandatory 2 tight ends in a 12-team league. That's just nuts. There's just not enough talent. It's like catcher. It's just not enough talent to have, 24 deep at catcher in baseball.
So Tags, I've got Brate as my number 2 pickup, and the reason why is because he started 7 games with the Bucs last year, and in that time, he was the number 4 fantasy tight end. In fact, he was closer to number 3, which was Zach Ertz, than he was to number 5, which was Jimmy Graham. This is a very good player that Jameis Winston absolutely loves. He loved him the season before. He was the most efficient tight end in all of fantasy football. I think he's going to have a big role with O.J. Howard out too, probably 4 weeks.
I don't know. They're saying that, so with the bye week, they're saying it's possible that he misses just 1 week, which is possible. I mean, we saw Doug Baldwin get hurt, the same injury in week 1, and he came back in week 4, so he missed just 2 games. So it's very possible with the bye week that he just misses week 6, and then he returns week 7, O.J. Howard. So I'm not going to go all in on Cameron Brate. Like, obviously, he's definitely going to be on the streaming radar once he comes in week 6. But for me personally, I'd grab Vance McDonald. Like, try and grab that lightning in a bottle. Obviously, Ben Roethlisberger is struggling. He's like legitimately the worst passer on deep balls this year. And if you guys like, I understand some people look at Ben Roethlisberger and be like, oh, he's posted good fantasy numbers. He's been terrible this year, like legit terrible. And Antonio Brown, he's throwing fits and stuff like that. Odell Beckham is. We have the diva wide receivers all back. But Vance McDonald has proven to be a force to be reckoned with after the catch. They have Juju Smith-Schuster taking away attention over the middle of the field. So he's been running a lot more routes than Jesse James. He is their tight end going forward, and he was someone that I thought could be a potential top 12 play this year if he got on the field, and we're starting to see that. So I like Vance McDonald over Cameron Brate because I think it's a potential long-term solution.
It is a potential long-term solution, but I mean, I'm looking at Brate's schedule. He's got Atlanta and then Cleveland in 6 and 7. I mean, that's about as easy as it gets.
Well, Brate also played with Howard last year. I know Howard was a rookie, but still, Winston found Brate in the end zone a lot. And that's the thing.
Down the stretch, though, Brate did not perform. Like, they slowly started increasing O.J. Howard's role. And if you guys actually, so the snap counts, I want to say it was prior to the Bears game. In week 3, Cameron Brate played like 14 snaps.
But I thought there was a Brate injury around that time, too.
They signed him to the long-term deal, guys.
Yeah, he was playing a lot of the snaps towards the end of the last year. So they did say something was about an injury, but he was playing the snaps, so he was out there. But again, this year, it was more about a concern this year and the fact that they had him out there for 14 snaps in week 3 and that O.J. Howard was developing. O.J. Howard's like a great blocker too, so it's like it's not like he's just a receiver. So Brate, like I said, I think he's worth a pickup, but I still think Vance McDonald is the potential long-term one.
You made a great point, too, about Roethlisberger, Mike, when you're talking about, maybe the fantasy numbers are there and you see some of the stats or you see some of the points that the Steelers have put up on, obviously not this Sunday night, but still, you see some of these stats. But when you watch them, it doesn't look like they're a comfortable offense. With Le'Veon Bell not there, this is not the same Steeler team that you're used to watching. And it's funny because I always said Antonio Brown is the guy. And now it's funny because last year you saw a period where Antonio Brown wasn't there and they were still all right and Juju picked up and everybody picked up. But now without Le'Veon Bell, all of a sudden maybe we realize that the stir that straws this drink is actually Lev Bell and not Antonio Brown.
Yeah, it's interesting. Plus their offensive line, which is a little bit banged up right now. I don't know. I think Big Ben kind of looks like Eli Manning right now. He is not playing well.
Oh, well, at least Ben Roethlisberger is taking shots down the field.
Yeah, you're right.
True. This is true. Against the Saints, no less. Oh, my God, the Saints. That was frustrating. I hit the Giants, and I was frustrated by it.
Guys, let's talk about defenses now. And we've got a few good streamers this week. The best of all, obviously, is Tennessee going up against Buffalo. I mean, Tags, would you spend $5 on them to acquire them? Because they're so much better than the rest of the available options.
No, I mean, it's like a $2 thing. Like, I don't ever spend more than $2 on a defense, especially one that's like coming in. I think Tennessee was they're only 15% owned in Yahoo leagues. So like nobody has them. And that's the thing. This goes back to, I'm sorry, I'm trying to pimp out an article that I do every week, but on Saturday mornings, I release an article. It's called Weekend Waiver Wire Stashes. And I look at the next week. So therefore you could have stashed Tennessee on your bench this week and had them in play and you wouldn't have to spend a dime on them because like these are the matchups that you can play the next week.
Yep, absolutely. Joe, you have them as your number 1, obviously. Who's your number 2 DST to stream this week?
Real quick, I just want to say Tennessee for me is clearly one. They've been quietly very good defensively, fantasy-wise. And yeah, some of the matchups have played well, but Vrabel's gotten them ready. And let's not discount that. And let's not discount toughness. Not only is this a good matchup, but possibly the following week, too, against the Ravens a good matchup. So it might not just be like a one-week kind of thing. Looking around, too, I mean, perhaps Cincinnati against Miami. I mean, Cincinnati's going to be back at home. Miami looked all kinds of confused. I mean, that's another one that you could probably throw out there as well. But it's Tennessee for me, and it's far and away because I think not only can you get 2 weeks potentially out of them, but even if you want to look a little further, too, after the Charger game, they've got the Cowboys following that. So maybe you like them 3 out of the 4 weeks, or maybe even take a shot at them against the Chargers because they've been a little up and down at times as well. But that Titans team defensively, and if they can get some better quarterback play and some healthy quarterback play, and all of a sudden, that makes them potentially even better defensively.
I told Tags they're winning the AFC South this preseason. I'm sticking by that. I think this Tennessee team is good.
I don't think that's a giant hot take either necessarily. You know, they're going to get better as the season goes on, kind of like the Bears. You know, the same kind of thing.
Guys, I like Carolina against Eli Manning that we just mentioned. Also, San Francisco at home against Josh Rosen. Rosen did not look especially impressive. Tags, you have any DSTs you want to talk about?
Not really. I mean, I think if you really wanted to think about it, like you can consider the Cardinals. They're going to be heading out to San Francisco. CJ Beathard took a mad shot in that game. Like he left the game for a minute, but I think he came back. Dallas at Houston. So, I mean, the thing is like Dallas' secondary has been really hit or miss this year. But the thing is they do have a good pass rush in Dallas. So they should be able to get after Deshaun Watson, at least provide you a couple sacks in the game and not end up with 0 points or anything like that.
All right, we're going to talk about players we can drop here in just a second. But first I want to mention a few guys. Like, let's say Aaron Jones is out there. He's still out there in, a third of all leagues. How much fab do you spend on him? Is this like a 50-plus guy, Joe?
I can't believe he's still available in that many.
Yeah, same with John Brown. John Brown's still out there in 30% of leagues.
That's just stupid. Like, that's just lazy. I don't even understand that anymore. I mean, I've been talking for 2 weeks about, the first game back for Aaron Jones. Like, let's all get on the Aaron Jones bandwagon now. Let's get him for cheap now. Be proactive instead of reactive. And then this week happens. And then, it's like the longer we go into it, the more expensive it becomes and the less opportunity you get. So for me, now you want to talk about a guy worth, using that number one waiver claim on, I would use it on him without a doubt, because you could say, oh, well, he's still only got, they were still the same amount of touches, but what's he doing with those touches? What's he doing with those carries? And, where is he when they get down to the goal line? Who's the guy? Oh, it's Aaron Jones. And this is an offense that, hopefully the Aaron Rodgers knee holds up. And hopefully what we saw, was them not running up the score just because they were just in a spot where, Allison got hurt and this guy got hurt. And they were just trying to let's just get through healthy and let's just get out of this with a W here. But as the season goes on, I mean, to me, Aaron Jones was always going to be the guy. My money was always on him. If he's available in your league, I think you absolutely need to be adding him, because even no matter what the situation is with a timeshare, he has the more productive carries in that timeshare in every single way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Now tags Quincy Enunwa, Chris Godwin, Geronimo Allison, all available in 50% of leagues. Same question. I mean,
can we get in these leagues?
I know, right?
I just want to get in some of those leagues, I'm sick of playing guys like Mike Tagliere. I'm really sick of it.
I've joined way too many industry leagues where it's like, I don't have the shot to get any of these guys.
Yeah, I have no home leagues anymore, I feel like it's all these industry leagues. It's just like, brutal.
I need to get back in home leagues. If you guys want to invite me into your home league, do that. But seriously, Geronimo Allison right now is on pace for 76 receptions, 1,156 yards, and 8 touchdowns. That would have been the number 7 wide receiver last year.
That's not bad. Not bad at all.
I mean, he's a little bit banged up now, but yeah, I would spend my number one priority on him, Chris Godwin, or Quincy Enunwa.
They should all be owned. I mean, Godwin is the one who I could say that I wouldn't confidently say that he should be owned with those guys. I don't think he belongs in that territory anymore, because I mentioned with Godwin, if he didn't catch a touchdown, he was going to bust. And to know that they're playing Adam Humphries over him is a joke. I don't get it. I mean, it's just the Bucs coaching staff. It is what it is.
Oh, Dirk Cotter's a disaster. That was my biggest Ronald Jones reservation.
Yeah.
I said, I want to be in the trading for Ronald Jones more than the drafting for Ronald Jones, I kept saying, because of what the ADP was and what I thought of Dirk Cotter. That was my take on it back in August.
Yeah, it is so stupid. But yeah, Enun was my favorite of these three because of the target share he's getting.
How is Brown available still? I mean, I know he doesn't catch everything.
He's the best, man. He is so good.
Well, but the thing is, you're talking about explosive, and you're talking about a guy that, you can throw out there, and he's getting a ton of targets. You know he has explosiveness. You know he has touchdown upside. Right now, he's clearly the number one for Flacco in that offense. Flacco can still throw a pretty good deep ball last time I checked, and at the end, it all just matches up. Is he gonna catch 10 balls every week? No, he doesn't have the greatest hands, but still, at the same time, this was a guy that it was never necessarily a matter of talent so much as he was behind Fitzgerald, and he was also perennially sick all the time. He had injuries, he had illness. There was a lot of issues holding him back. He's healthy. He's in a good spot. I mean, you should be on every team. You should be 100% on.
You watch him run his routes, and it's usually when somebody's about to make a cut, they'll take one step the opposite direction to just try to get the guy to bite. John Brown, takes 2 steps, his whole body's turned one direction, and then before you know it, he's going the other direction, lightning speed, and nobody can stop that. He's going to break so many big receptions because of that.
Yeah, he's like a joystick. You just kind of move whatever way you want. And it's Tyreek Hill has that to his game too. I didn't think that these guys would ever be the number one target in their offenses, but I mean, their teams are proving us wrong. Flacco, we always knew that he had the arm to get the ball down the field to John Brown. And the fact that he's number 2 in the NFL in air yards, John Brown. So that production is going to sustain. James Coe tweeted out something about that, basically saying that only behind Julio Jones in air yards this year is John Brown. So yeah, definitely a must start every single week and should be owned. I remember tweeting out a couple weeks ago saying that John Brown was hilariously 22% owned in Yahoo leagues. I'm like, guys, come on. And it's been such a slow process where people are starting to realize that this guy is really good at football.
Well, there's an overall arc too that we're starting to see the smaller, faster player, both at wide receiver and running back, become more acceptable, whether it be Tariq Cohen, whether it be Brown, whether it be Tyreek Hill, whether it be, a lot of these guys. I mean, Kamara's not exactly built like Adrian Peterson. You know what I mean? It's a different style. You see McCaffrey with that huge game and, all of a sudden looking run around like Earl Campbell, it felt like, around the Atlanta Falcon defense, little Christian McCaffrey. But still, I think the acceptability of the smaller, faster speed kills more than size necessarily in what's become of the NFL in terms of rules. It's become a wide open game, and wide open games means more like flag football. It's about how fast can you be, how quick can you be, and how open can you get.
Guys, let's move on to the next segment here. This is going to be lightning round, so just drop him or keep him. No analysis, really, so we can get through as many players as possible. Let's start with Kelvin Benjamin. Drop him or keep him, Joe?
Drop him.
Drop him.
I'm keeping him. His ADOT is 17.1, fourth best in all of football right now.
He's caught 7 of 21 targets. He's terrible.
Number 1 target. He'll be fine. If he's getting those opportunities, I want him on my team.
Bobby said no analysis, Mike. You're not playing by the rules.
Marlon Mack.
Keep.
Yeah. Keep. Unhappy keep, but yeah.
Brandon Marshall with Doug Baldwin back.
Drop.
Yeah. Jordan Wilkins.
Drop.
Okay.
Robert Turbin is back this week, and that's just a joke in itself, but he's back.
What about DJ Moore?
Keep.
I mean, if you own him right now, it means you play in a deep league. There's reason for hope. He played 33 snaps before their bye week after playing just 17 snaps in each of the first 2 games. However, he's still behind routes by Jarius Wright, but I don't know if they use the bye week to involve him more in the offense, but Curtis Samuel is also coming back. So I think DJ Moore is a hold for me if you already have him, because that means that there's probably not much on the waiver wire.
I'm keeping him.
I'm keeping as well.
I don't know if I'm allowed to give analysis. I don't want to get in trouble.
Tags broke the rule, so I'm going to break the rule on this guy. Devontae Parker, I posted this tweet. He's got 25 career starts. He has 60-plus yards in 16 of them. That's 64%. The only players with a better rate: Antonio Brown, Michael Thomas, Mike Evans, Julio Jones, Brandon Cooks, Odell Beckham, Keenan Allen. That is it. Guys, Devontae Parker is available in 75% of leagues.
He also might be dead. I wanted to like Devontae Parker more than anybody, and I still think that there's a chance, but it's he's like a speculative guy. I would like to have him on my bench for sure.
I'm keeping him big time. I'm really excited about Devontae Parker, man.
I'm keeping him because this week I think the matchup portends well against Cincinnati, where they're going to be behind. So I think that's it.
All right, guys. Antonio Callaway.
I mean, I guess I keep just because he's getting targeted, but he's not good.
Yeah, see, I'm going to drop because all the names that we were talking about,
exactly.
I would rather have all of those names, the Gabriels, the D.D. Westbrooks, all those guys. I think this particular week, what's out there right now, more available, I would take a shot on any of those guys. Even the Sanus, I think I would take over him.
I'm dropping him too. Jack Doyle.
Hold.
Keep. Frustrating.
Robbie Anderson.
Hold.
Yeah, another reluctant hold.
Alfred Morris.
I'm going to drop because of the names, too. I like some of those names out there better.
Yeah, I'll drop.
I can't ever see starting him and feeling good about it, right?
Mm-mm.
Bilal Powell, same thing.
Hold. Hard to find running backs, man.
I like him better than Alfred Morris, but if I have to drop him for one of these running backs, I'm not going to drop him for Nyheim Hines or anything.
Bobby, wouldn't you rather have a guy like Chubb on your bench? At this point where you're like, let me put some talent on my roster at this point. I mean, we're getting to a point now where, talent, injuries are going to happen and talent's going to show out. And when those two things come together, that's when you have waiver wire glory. So why not be like Aaron Jones, ahead of the curve instead of behind it and reacting to things?
But isn't that after bye weeks, though? So, like me, I agree with you guys to a certain extent, but I want to wait till I get through bye weeks because you need someone to produce to give you at least a floor.
Will they be there after bye weeks? That's a problem. We wait another couple weeks, one more good game, and the next thing you know.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the hard part. It depends on your roster and what you have available bench-wise.
I mean, Powell's projected for like 7 points every week. I can go pick up Jaquiz Rodgers and expect 5 points.
No, you're not going to get that.
Well, I'm saying somebody like Jaquiz Rodgers, who's the third down back.
You can tell you guys have been doing a lot of shows together. Yeah. I love it. Like an old married couple. I love it.
All right, guys, Jameis and Crowder. Just a couple more.
Hold. Definitely hold.
I'm going to say keep also.
He's a keep from me. Marquise Goodwin.
Drop.
Trade.
Really?
I would trade him if I could.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I bet you could. There's got to be somebody out there who... I was honestly, I was never that guy. I was the Garcon guy in this argument in the beginning of the year, so I'm the last guy to talk to about this.
All right. What about Kenny Stills? He's had one good week.
He's still a hold.
I think he's a hold too, especially this week.
I think so, but it's kind of been a disappointment. Okay, guys, before we finish out the show, just really quick, Tags, give me one buy low guy that you like.
One buy low. I mean, we just talked about Geronimo Allison, the fact that he's like still, for whatever reason, not valued. But I think the one player that we've already talked about him in the show is Aaron Jones. If you can go out there and buy him for cheaper than, an RB2 price, I think you should. I actually moved him up into my top 30 running backs for the remainder of the season. I do believe that he's one of those guys where it's like, he's healthy. He's playing for an offense that's going to score points. Aaron Rodgers is only going to get healthier. Teams cannot just sit there and say, we're going to stop Aaron Jones and it's going to be a great game plan. It's not going to work that way. So I think Aaron Jones is a potential league winner. So to go out there and trade for him right now, I think that would be wise to do.
For me, it's Odell Beckham. Like, I understand he hasn't scored any touchdowns, but, he's probably the best pure talent at wide receiver in the NFL. Maybe Julio Jones, but I think Beckham. I want him going forward, and I think that you can get a first-round player for like a late second-round value right now.
You're probably right. The offense is weird. Like, his average depth of target sucks, but they have to fix that.
Joe, who's your guy?
For me, it's going to be Mike Williams because I think that you see the trend going in the right direction, and everybody had high expectations this week, and it didn't come to fruition. And it's funny, I feel like some people, they have very short attention spans. So if it doesn't happen when they think it's going to happen, they get off of it right away. But, look a little further, and you got Oakland this week, and there's certainly another opportunity right there, right in front of them. So for me, I would take a shot on Mike Williams right now because I think there's a lot of expectation, didn't quite get to it last week. But overall in the season, I think he's a rookie, let's be honest. He was a rookie last year, he didn't play, but he's still figuring things out, and I like him in a lot in the second half.
All right, let's go sell high, and I want to say no quarterbacks because if you can ever sell a quarterback, you sell a quarterback. I think that's obvious, or if it's not, it needs to be stated. So, Tags, who's your sell high non-quarterback?
I mean, on last night's show, I talked about Calvin Ridley being a potential sell high just because people, like Michael Fabiano did a poll on Twitter, and 54% of people said that they would rather have Calvin Ridley than Julio Jones.
What? Are you kidding me?
But that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's that recency bias where people can't think outside of the last 7 days.
And by the way, Julio Jones still outscored Calvin Ridley in PPR leagues this week, even though he didn't score a touchdown. But, I mean, I'm a huge Calvin Ridley fan, but sell high if you can get crazy high value. But another one is Golden Tate. Golden Tate has been...
you took mine. Why you get two?
He's been with the Lions for the last 4 seasons, so this is his 5th season with them. He's never finished better than the wide receiver 13. He's currently the wide receiver 7 with Galladay and Marvin Jones there. It's not going to happen, him finishing as a top 10 receiver. If you can get that value right now, because he's capitalized on basically an easy, like really easy start of the season schedule.
Yeah. Joe, who's your next guy? Or do you need time to think about it?
Well, mine was Tate because of a lot of the same reasons. Because, he's not the touchdown guy. He's coming off the big touchdown game, so his value is a little artificially inflated right now. But yeah, give me a second. I'll come up with another one here.
Okay, here's my guy. It's Jared Cook. And I know that if you've got Jared Cook, you're like, I'm not trading a tight end. Jared Cook has faced 4 of the 5 easiest defenses against tight ends: the Rams, the Broncos, the Dolphins, and the Browns. He does not have a single matchup this good the rest of the season. We know who Jared Cook is. It's not the guy with 370 yards and 2 touchdowns. He's done this from time to time where he goes on these stretches. Jared Cook is not that great of a football player, and someone thinks they're getting a top 5 tight end. I think Jared Cook is a streamer. I would trade Jared Cook now and then just use a streamer the rest of the season.
I'll stay with Oakland, and I'll go with Amari Cooper coming off a good game because he's got 4 bad games ahead of him now. So this was the good game. You had him. Sell him off the good one and then move along.
You can trade him to me. I'll take him.
You can have him.
Okay.
You guys have him.
All right, guys. That's all for today's show. Joe, thank you for taking the time to come on.
Absolutely, guys. Thanks for having me. Always fun.
All right. Thanks to the sponsor of today's show, Bombfell. Bombfell provides an easier, more personal, and affordable way to get better clothes. For $25 off your first order, visit bombfell.com/fantasypros. That's BOMBFELL.com/fantasypros. For Mike Tagliere, I'm Bobby Sylvester. Thanks for listening, and enjoy your football.
I just wanted you to watch me dissolve.